evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 68th take live from Euless, Texas. I'm your host as always, Barry Duplessis, and I'm so excited to welcome in our guest for our 68th take, a return guest that we'll introduce here in just a moment. But before we get to that, we do have to take a nod to our awesome sponsors. This show is, of course, sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has just announced the launch of its 2019 Barn Smoker program, with tickets going on sale for the Florida and Pennsylvania events currently available at www.barnsmoker.com. Tickets for the Kentucky, Connecticut, Louisiana events will go on sale later this year. The Drew Estate Barn Smokers highlights the American tobacco experience, bringing the cigar enthusiasts to the field and farm level by teaching them the full gamut of growing, processing, and manufacture of premium cigars. So write these dates down. The Drew Estate Barn Smokers will be taking place in Florida, in Claremont, on May 18th, 2019, in Pennsylvania, at Strasburg on July 20th, 2019, in Connecticut, in South Windsor on August 10th, Kentucky in Hopkinsville on October 5th, and Louisiana Barn Smoker will be taking place in Convent, Louisiana, of course, on the greatest day in October, my birthday, October 26th. So mark those dates down. The Drew Estate Barn Smokers, it'll be a fantastic event. And if you guys are listening to, if you're watching the show on YouTube, that we really appreciate that. But if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever podcasts are being, wherever you listen to podcasts, you're listening to us exclusively because of Cornelius and Anthony Premium Cigars. Cornelius and Anthony Premium Cigars is steeped in tobacco tradition. For over 150 years, the Bailey family has been part of America's tobacco heritage, passionately caring for the land they cultivate in Keysville, Virginia. Cornelius and Anthony's devotion to the finest grown tobacco and foremost aspects of craftsmanship allows us to introduce the most exquisite cigars to the market. They invite you to enjoy their portfolio of premium hand-rolled cigars and experience their dedication to producing exceptional products. So if you're listening to us, we really appreciate that, and it is brought to you exclusively by Cornelius and Anthony Premium Cigars. But without further ado, I would like to welcome in our guest for our 68th take. It's a return guest, one of my absolute favorite people in the industry for one of my absolute favorite brands, and it's so excited to have him in because they just had a great 2018, and 2019 is shaping up to be an amazing year because it is the 5th anniversary of Crux Cigars, and I'm pleased to welcome in Mr. Casey Haugen. Casey, how you doing tonight?
Great. Thanks for having me on again tonight, and really appreciate it.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure, man. I'm so stoked that I could get you back on. Like I said, 2018 was so great for you guys. Capped up a nice year. We just talked about before we went on air of some top 10 and top 25 rankings and some of the cigar online media and everything. Making number 6 on my list personally with the Crux Epicure Corona Gorda. But I'm about to light up a new Vitola from the Crux Epicure. So you guys are doing a Salomon series that's getting kicked off with the Crux Epicure, and I was pleased to get one from you, so thank you so much. So why don't we just kick off with that? Casey, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Salomon project that you guys are doing at Crux?
Well, we're always looking to expand the portfolio with unique shapes and sizes. And, we don't really want to be launching, a ton of new blends every year because we want to continue to have our tried and trues. But we found a great size that seemed to really work for us, which is a 6x54 short Salomon. So we're going to do it in the Epicure blend, which is an Ecuadorian Connecticut. We're going to do it in the Guild blend, which is an Ecuadorian Habano. And then we're also going to do it with the Limitada. And this is going to be a short Salomon with a semi-box press.
Oh my gosh.
With the Engañoso wrapper as well on that. So, yeah, that was we got one pair that rolls that Vitola for us. So it's a limited production. It's not like necessarily limited release, but we can only make so many of them. So they'll be available throughout the year. But we're starting with the Epicure that should be here shortly. Really looking forward to that because Epicure's for me it's one of our favorite cigars, one of my favorite cigars that but I smoke the Epicure almost every day. It's usually my first cigar of the day, and adding a cool unique shape 6x54 short Salomon. It's kind of a unique flavor because when JP does all the blending, it's unique when you have to reblend a Toro to now make a short Salomon because of obviously the variance in the ring gauges throughout the entire Vitola. It's going to change a little bit. So you're going to find some unique characteristics that, kind of remind you a lot of the Epicure Toro. But you're going to get some unique characteristics. And I think he did a fantastic job when, kind of altering that Vitola into staying tried and true with the Epicure blend as well.
As long as some of that quintessential creaminess comes back.
Quintessential creaminess. I couldn't remember what that phrase you use. I could pull it up, the text message that I got from you. That's a page and a half long. I read it to somebody not too long ago, based off of a true blogger's opinion of a cigar. But we won't bore the people with them again. But no, I'm really excited about that Vitola because it's a unique shape. I mean, it adds a fifth Vitola to the blend for us. Now we have a Corona Gorda, Robusto Toro, Robusto Extra, and now adding the the short Salomon to the Epicure line right away it's going to be a nice cigar for us.
So so asking the stupid question, obviously you wouldn't make or produce or bring a cigar to market that you guys weren't absolutely in love with, but given the years kind of leading up to the release of this cigar, Connecticut shades were kind of met with a little less enthusiasm is probably the best way to put it. Were you at all, you being you personally, Casey, or you being the collective you of Crux, were you guys shocked at all of how successful this cigar has been and how popular it really has become?
Well, overall with the Connecticut market, I mean, we're definitely never, I shouldn't say never, we haven't been, obviously the front runners of something new with the Connecticut wrapper. I mean, Connecticut's been, it's the #1 selling wrapper throughout the country. I mean, like, it's the most popular, but, adding some boutique flavors to it, some other companies have done as well. Over the last few years, we've been able to kind of beef that up, find the best Ecuadorian Connecticut possible. There's other great Connecticut's, but we chose an Ecuadorian. And because of, the size of our company, we can truly buy the best Connecticut's that are out there because we're not making 1 million sticks a year with that cigar. We're doing a couple 100,000. So, with that blend, I mean, we can buy the best Ecuador Connecticut that we can find. And so we knew that when we came with a Connecticut, we really only want to come with one. It had to knock it out of the park. And with the name Epicure, which is an iconic historical name in the cigar industry, there was a lot of time put into that cigar. I mean, Jeff blending it, sourcing out tobaccos. It was over a 1.5 to 2 year period from when we started working on a Connecticut blend. And, Jeff put together a phenomenal choice based off of Ricardo's recommendation, who's one of the master tobacconists in the Plasencia factory. He had a Condega filler that he said is some of the best filler from Condega that he's seen in years. So that's actually where that cigar started, was from that Condega filler, and then ended up with that being the Connecticut blend, adding that Ecuadorian Connecticut. And so to answer your question, were we surprised that it's done that well? No, because Connecticut's do very well throughout the country. And it was a lot of time and effort and, a lot of intrinsic parts that go into blending a cigar that's mild enough, but yet enough flavor. So we knew it would be a great cigar for us, not comparing it to anybody else's sales, but for us, it's our #1 seller.
And I just did it with my question there, but you bring up a fantastic point there. No one wants to admit that they smoke a Connecticut shade. And so like when people, when it appears on a list or you hear someone talking about it with such high regard, as many have talked about this cigar specifically, it's almost kind of, like I said, it's because a lot of people don't want to be enthusiastic about it, but it can still be a tremendous cigar. I've said it, time and time again and tirelessly at this point about how incredible it is. And this is starting off incredible, Casey. It's the spice is actually it's actually a lot spicier than any of the other Vitolas that I've smoked with it so far.
And you're going to get a little bit. You're going to get a little bit more because when you make that Vitola, you have to build up. Obviously, we have a different ring gauge throughout the entire cigar, so you have to create obviously the change of tobacco throughout the cigar. There's based on just ratios alone at the end of the cigar, there's going to be more filler and less binder, or excuse me, and less wrapper. So you are going to get a lot of that Condega spice.
It's gorgeous so far, man. I'm really enjoying this. This is truly sensational.
Thank you.
So they come out later this month?
Oh yeah, they should be here. Let's say within at least the next month.
Terrific.
Because we're already in the middle of the month, so
right.
Nicaragua time. It's supposed to be coming here in the next 30 days. We'll say.
So look for a Crux Epicure Salomon at your local tobacconist, like Michael's, because we do carry Crux, and it's a great does really well for us, and we're really pleased to support you guys. So it's fantastic. So kind of going back to 2018 and just some of the success you had leading up into the show for all of 2019's releases and everything. So you guys decided to, I think it was right about the time of the show, you guys hire a vice president of sales who's now, vacated that position and everything. Are you guys looking to refill that position? Or are you guys just filling it internally with amongst yourselves? Like how is the company taking care of that position? I mean, because you kind of created it, right? When you hired.
We created a position because we definitely want to continue to grow. Every year we're gaining new retail partners, and every year it's just a lot for me to handle by one person traveling throughout the entire country. Jeff does a lot of traveling for us as well, but on the day-to-day basis, we need more boots on the ground. So I've always said, we want to keep anything in-house as close to the heart as we can. But if we can find the right people, we'll create positions. And unfortunately, that one didn't work out the way we wanted. He ended up taking another job, which we're happy for him. But for us, it was a great step in the right direction. Kind of learning he had a little bit more experience in kind of the larger companies. So just some of the processes that we learned, even in the short time that he was around, it was very beneficial for us. And being able to now see kind of obviously our small boutique company, with adding a few new processes that larger companies are doing. But then being able to add more people on the ground. So not really going to fulfill that position probably in the near future, but we are definitely looking to fill some regional positions over the next year.
That's great to hear that, that there was still some benefit out of it, even though it was short-lived. I was really excited to see, because of what you just said, Casey, I was really excited to see what Roy McClellan could have done for you guys, considering his point of view is coming from a different level which you guys were operating on. So it's really interesting that you guys were still able to pick up some real positives out of such a short period of time.
Absolutely. It was definitely a positive attribute for us. I mean, my background isn't in major companies. Like, I've never managed a Fortune 500 company. Small business has been my entire life. So trying to grow, there's always been some handicaps that I've had. And, Jeff has his real estate business as well as his own, cigar lounges. But, like managing, now we're managing, a couple hundred, 2.5, 100 accounts, that's still small potatoes. We want to be able to maintain those at the highest level. We want to be able to grow consistently, and we want to supply them with the best customer support that we can. So we've added, some inside sales staff already this year. And we're also looking for, finding the right people in the correct markets. I've been spending a lot of time in your home state of Texas, because I want to find, kind of the right retailers to start. We've obviously done a lot of business in Dallas since the beginning. I mean, Michael's Aviles is one of our first 25 accounts 5 years ago. But building up the entire territory.
Oh, really? I didn't know we were one of the first 25.
Yeah, cool. We actually, Michael's, which was, it was the last day of the 2014 trade show, where Tracy, Mike, Bob, and Jason all came by, sat down in our booth. I think they were just tired, and we, caught them on a down low from 3.5 days of tiredness, and and we struck up a great friendship. I mean, and it's developed even more. And they're one of the best partners we've had since the beginning. They were one of the first 25 accounts we ever opened. So starting in Dallas, that kind of opened the door for us to get to Dallas more. And now I'm spending a lot more time in Houston, which I'll be going this week. And then I also head to San Antonio this coming week as well. And kind of added that triangle position there throughout that state, which I've done throughout the country in different territories. And then we can add, some support systems in that for me, because, eventually I can't be everywhere every week. True.
I know you have a great support up at Todd Nafe's shop at ZT's in Oklahoma City too. So I know.
Yeah, they're one. I can't remember if they were one of our first 25, but I want to say they're definitely in our first 50. We've been doing business with Todd, and Todd's a great guy. We get along great. I mean, I feel like with his background of cigars, as well as the way he runs his business, and the really cool, maybe one of my favorite multi-event that he does every year is Smokeoklahoma. That's just that's just a treat to do that event, which I believe that this year is April 27th up in Oklahoma City. But we've had great support from Laramie, who's the general manager there, as well as Todd. And I mean, he plays golf, he likes scotch, he smokes cigars. I mean, I'm going to get along with him, so I'm going to get along with him pretty well. So we've struck up a really cool friendship as well, and it's just opened the doors. So always looking for being able to fill the positions that we need with good people. And realistically, we're not here for a sprint. For us, it's always been a marathon from day one. Jeff and I neither of us are long distance runners, but we looked at this company as this is going to be a marathon for us, because we are going to do everything we feel is the right way. We are going to make sure this is methodically thought out to build the brand. Nobody's boots are too big for their britches, where we all have looked ourselves in the mirror and said, are we doing this properly? Whose idea was it? It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. We're going to find the right process. And, we're still slowly building this company. I mean, we're 5 years next month will be the first time we sold a cigar in this country. And, it's been a great ride. We've continued to grow. We've had a lot of successes, and we've learned from our failures. And it's exciting to see that, we're still a very young company at 5 years, especially in this industry, because in 2016, when the FDA stepped in, it's really deterred new manufacturers. So when you look at a 5-year-old company, basically, there's very few of us that have come in since 14. I remember our first year in 14, there was 30 or 40 brand new manufacturers at the trade show. If you look at the trade show year this year in 2018, how many were new manufacturers? I don't know the exact number. Don't quote me, but I'm guaranteeing it was less than 5.
No, I was gonna say 5 would probably be the under. Yeah, take the under on 5.
I would take the under on 5. I mean, I would take the under on 5, and it could have been 2 or 3. I don't know. But we're talking, so because we're still, usually you graduate 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, finally you become a junior or a senior. Not in this industry, because we don't have any new freshmen and sophomores anymore, because we're staying that freshman and sophomore, because nobody else is coming into the industry. So we're still a very young company. We're in our first 5 years. This trade show, IPCPR 19, will be our 5th trade show as a company. We're really looking for, actually, maybe it's 6, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, but full 5 years. It's been a great ride. There's nothing better than having, a company that you can run and be a part of with family. And Jeff was my cousin, and it's been nothing but a pleasure.
So I was actually gonna start the interview with a different series of questions, but you kind of took us into the 5th year anniversary. So I want to kind of build on that a little bit. Someone that we both know very well and have a tremendous amount of respect for is my partner on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition, Will Cooper. And Coop has said that he thinks he in his opinion, he feels that the 5th year, if you make it to 5 years, okay? So if you make it to 5 years, you're not, I mean, you can't rest on your laurels by any stretch, but you've made it. You've established yourself.
I definitely agree with that in some way. I mean, it's definitely a standpoint. I mean, like, anybody can sell cigars for a few years. I mean, like, you have to obviously continually support your customers and continue to build great products and continue to build great cigars. I mean, you can make a ton of great cigars 1 year, and then if you have construction issues, distribution issues, whatever. Yeah, I think that 5-year mark is a standpoint of somewhat success in this industry, especially. I mean, you look at, as a TAA manufacturer, which we are not, but one of their criteria is 5 years in the industry. I mean, that's a baseline of, you have to be in this industry as a manufacturer for 5 years. And that's not just by, flipping a coin and picking a number. I mean, like you said, I think 5 years really does hold a little bit of weight that says, we've done something right, and we're still here. We're still selling cigars. And the beautiful thing about it is it's a small celebration for us, because it's in the magnitude of, the course of, we're going to build this company that hopefully we can pass it on to our, our children and grandchildren.
So that leads me to a question. You mentioned it. Are there any plans for Crux to join TAA?
That's not really up to us generally. I mean, that has to be basically, I think the whole process is nominated, supported. You have to be in a certain number of TAA accounts. And I don't know all the logistics exactly. It would be definitely something we would, consider, obviously, if it was brought to our attention.
You'd quote unquote pick up the phone call.
Absolutely. You always. I mean, I'll always answer the phone call if it's a TAA call or if it's any retailer store. I mean, to me, they're all important. I look at this as one relationship at a time, and Jeff's kind of instilled that from the beginning. And we look at it from the standpoint of course, we'll take that phone call. I mean, there's a bunch of great retailers in that entire association, and we're in a bunch of them. We do good business with a bunch of them. Is it our first thought? Hey, we're 5 years old. Let's jump into TAA. I don't think that's on the forefront of our minds. But if somebody made that phone call and said, "Hey, are you guys interested?" We would definitely have to weigh the pros and cons. I mean, like, we are currently making a certain amount of cigars, and we would have to obviously elevate that. But we also need to continue to grow at a pace where we can continually have you smoke a Crux cigar every time. And what I mean by that is a consistently quality cigar that it comes from us. We can't just all of a sudden turn on the switch and say, let's make 5 million cigars. Because of the amount of tobacco that we've purchased over the last few years for the blends, obviously us sourcing out our tobaccos, using Plasencia for the predominant of our cigars and the rolling. But we do have to buy some tobaccos. And all of a sudden, I can't turn you around and make you, 5 million epicures next week. Because it's just the tobacco's not there. So it's gotta still be a slow build. Obviously, we put ourselves in a great position last year. We put a large investment in raw tobacco. So we are definitely planning on accelerating over the next few years because we put a large investment in raw tobacco that is an investment in ourselves that says, yes, we're going to sell more cigars in the next few years. And you kind of look at it like, oh, we spent a bunch of money last year on the books, but it's sitting in raw tobacco. So once that tobacco is ready and available and we put it in blends or in our current blends, we definitely have the tools to grow. But for us, it's not flipping a switch. It's not saying, boom, let's make 5 million cigars. Let's not just move that fast. So to answer your question, I will pick up the phone.
So that's a really interesting point that you brought up about buying the raw tobacco and planning. So, the first 5 years of y'all's existence, you guys have really, like you said, built up an incredible product, great reputation by quality products being presented in each and every opportunity that you guys present yourself in every shop that you guys are in all your accounts. And so you've built this established product. So now the next move, you guys have made the preparations to make this big move in growth by purchasing lots of raw tobacco goods. Is this Crux's first, maybe in this quantity, but just a planning for the future in terms of buying this much raw tobacco? Or did it happen a couple years? Does it happen every other year? What's that process like? So
initially when we started, we used all Plasencia's tobacco. So we never had to buy raw tobacco because they have a lot of it. I don't know if you've ever been to Esteli. You've seen the multiple holding, facilities, the multiple rooms, the aging rooms. They have a ton of their tobaccos. But as we've developed into a company making, different blends, we don't only use their tobacco, even though they roll most of our cigars. So we had to make an investment. I believe the first time we started buying tobacco was, I want to say 2.5, 3 years ago. When we started working on the Limitada PB5 has some tobacco that we had to purchase, one of the fillers, as well as then obviously the Ecuador, Connecticut, the Epicure. That's a wrapper that we have to source because that isn't, Plasencia doesn't have factory or farms in Ecuador. So we source that tobacco out. And then obviously our new cigar that's going to be coming out. I don't like to say we're always the first ones to get things done. But when we do, I feel like we've done it the way we have done our due diligence. And like this new Epicure Maduro, which is based off the same filler binder as the Epicure blend, but adding a Mexican San Andreas Maduro wrapper. We've actually added another factory to help us make that cigar with AJ Fernandez in Esteli. Basically needing more capacity. I mean, we've got to be able to make more cigars and use different tobaccos. So adding that to our portfolio with another partner for us has been a phenomenal thing for us that we've been working on that almost for a year now to finally get that done. And that'll come out here in a couple months. And we're really excited about it because, being able to build your portfolio, you obviously have to build your risk, eliminate your risk. So us having multiple sources of tobaccos, multiple box factories, multiple importers, multiple accounts, it all comes down to also multiple places to make cigars. So adding AJ as a partner, and actually this might be the first official time we've mentioned it, even though it's been mulling around for the last few months. But no, we're excited about what we can do with him as well. And he's been nothing but great to us over the last year, building that relationship. And finally, it takes time. It's not like we said, hey, let's make a cigar today. It's been a year process to get the Epicure Maduro out. We announced it last year at the trade show, and we were hoping for December. But the Epicure Maduro, it has to be perfect for us. And thankfully, we're going to get it out before the trade show 19. So for us, that's a success.
Yeah, because this was the original release of the Epicure was also a much anticipated release too, and that's something that you guys have really not relented on at all. You guys have waited until you felt that the blend was right and you felt that the quality was right, and so it's something that from the tobacco nerd in me, it definitely appreciates. From the consumer in me, obviously, I get impatient because I get excited.
Sure, people are definitely. I get inboxes quite frequently of, I thought this was coming out. When is this coming? Instagram, Twitter. I hear it from people all the time. And I just said it's going to be here when it's ready. And that all stems back to that marathon. Like, if we bring a cigar that's not ready to market and you smoke it and you hate it, you're never going to smoke it again. Because it was aged improperly, it didn't have the right tobaccos, it wasn't the right blend, for whatever million reasons it could have been. We look at this as a complete marathon, and there's times where we're in the factory and we think we're close, we think we're there even, and we're really excited, and something happens. Maybe the tobacco's not all there, maybe not the correct tobacco. Maybe different coloring, different reasons can halt the project and make you start over. And we are at the stage of, it's a marathon, and we will continue to basically that tortoise that the entire way. And, a new product's got to come to market, because first impressions are eternal. And, you come out with a bad first Connecticut, like, no one's going to think you can make a Connecticut. And JP obviously blended a phenomenal Connecticut, in my opinion. I mean, I'm very biased, 100%, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of the best Connecticut's on the market. There's some other ones out there, but I think, it does very well for us. We're very happy and satisfied with the sales numbers on that cigar. Obviously coming out and turning into our #1 seller really quickly. And the fact is, following that up with our first San Andreas Maduro, with the Epicure Maduro, it's in the same line, and it's got to be done the same way. It's got to be done properly. It's got to be done to Crux standard, and we're really excited about it. And truthfully, not always been a Maduro guy, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty excited about the Epicure Maduro being nationally sold, because people are going to be pretty excited about it.
Now you obviously are biased, and you just said it, but 100%. Something that I do know about you, Casey, is that you're, I won't say one of the few, but you're one of the people in the cigar industry that I happen to know really well that freely, openly admits that they do smoke other cigars.
Oh, 100%. I smoke. Well, I like the price of our cigars better, for me, than I do other people's cigars. But I do smoke a ton of other cigars, because you have to be open to interpretation of what is successful in the market if you want to be successful yourself. Why is this cigar selling? I don't care if it's branding, marketing, or the cigar. What are they doing that's successful? But let's break it down and start with the tobacco itself. And just like when we were getting ready to do the Ecuador Connecticut, the Epicure, we had to find the right Connecticut. And I smoked every Connecticut in the humidor, from your $2 stick up to your $20 cigar. Anything that had a Connecticut wrapper, I needed to know what it tasted like, so I could at least try to figure out and help Jeff source out tobaccos to get something on the market that was good. So no, 100% I smoke. I think there's a ton of great cigar companies. I think there's a ton of great cigars. And if you had to give me my top 5, which don't make me list it now, but two of mine are definitely in there. Two Crux cigars are definitely in there. Blends that Jeff has made. 2 of ours are definitely in that top 5 if I got to go to the grave with them. But that leaves 3 that aren't ours. You know,
Right.
so like, I mean, obviously we have a bunch of different blends. I could easily say, oh, we have the best 5 cigars I've ever smoked, which don't get me wrong. Other people make great cigars. There's a ton of other great small companies. And the beautiful thing about being a boutique company is we get to use the best tobaccos in the world, because the best tobaccos in the world aren't historically manufactured to make millions and millions and millions and millions of cigars. You can make smaller batches in a couple hundred, 3, 4, 500,000 cigars with the best tobaccos in the world. And we can really put that together because we aren't targeting, that number of 15, 20 million sticks sold.
Yeah, there's one manufacturer in particular that's very, I won't mention his name right now because I would like to ask that question, because he's very, very open about how opposite side of that point that he is, that he only smokes his stuff. And so I would love to have the chance to interview him, and I want to get his point of view and his perspective on that, because I think it's interesting, and I think your point's completely valid, and I 100% agree with you that you have to be cognizant of what's on the market and what exists and for sheer marketing purposes and trending, like what's trending, what are people buying these days?
Exactly. And you look at it from that standpoint, like realistically, I mean, anybody that thinks they only make good cigars, and I don't know who this person you're talking about is, a fool, because obviously we know that's not the Padrones. They make phenomenal cigars. The Fuentes make phenomenal cigars. Rocky makes phenomenal cigars. Davidoff makes phenomenal. And these are big people. There's great Cuban cigars. I mean, but we're talking completely different people. So anybody that tells me that they're the only one that makes good cigars and they're only going to smoke their cigars, like, to me, that's very foolish. But they're entitled to their opinion, and if they maybe they blended something that to them it's the perfect cigar. And don't get me wrong, they may have blended the perfect cigar for them. However, cigars are all interpretive.
Yeah, it's very subjective.
Like, I love the Epicure. I love this cigar. I think it's fantastic in all sizes. I smoke it in all sizes. I mean, I like it. Really, depending on how much time I have, I'll smoke it. And for me, like, but then again, there's times I want something that's lighter. There's times I want something more full. And we don't make anything that's like overly in your face, and we want everything to finish clean. We want, a clean palate. We don't want that palate trauma. So we've got predominantly mild to medium plus bodied cigars. The Guild does touch some full body, but sometimes I want a strong cigar. Maybe I've had a couple in a day. Maybe I'm drinking, some shitty liquor, or, something that, that I need to kill that with, So there's a time and a place for every cigar, even though I try only to drink, I try to drink things I like. But I would be a fool to say we're the only ones that make great cigars. Obviously, I have some of my best friends in this world are manufacturers that make phenomenal cigars. And maybe they make one Vitola that I really like. Maybe they make a line that I really like. But to think you're the only person that does something is kind of silly. And the fact is, unless you're selling, the market majority, you really don't have anything to say.
True story. What are you drinking, by the way?
This is just a Macallan 12.
Good Scotch, man.
Good Scotch. I was gonna pour. I usually, that's like my go-to every day. When I say every day, I mean occasionally, like not that often actually. I'll buy a bottle or 2 a year, and I'm just not a huge drinker. I had a Guinness with dinner, and I watched the sunset over here, and we got that extra hour, so I got to watch the sunset with the Guinness on, down by the ocean, and then a glass of Macallan at night is a nice little nightcap. But Macallan 12 to me is kind of a solid, smooth, easy Scotch. Special occasion, I've got a bottle of 18 that I like to drink, but there's completely different complex flavors there too. I mean, you could do a blind taste test, and people are going to flip a 12 and an 18, and you're looking at 4 times the price. So I think they're both great Scotches. I like anything really from the Highlands. I'm a Highland, maybe some Space Sides, but I've got, I think, 7 different bottles of Macallan in the cupboard. So
if you haven't tried it already, I recommend the Glenlivet Nadura.
I have, and unfortunately, that is not one that is really tasteful for my palate.
Oh man,
the Nadura, for some reason, it almost tastes like they matured it in like swamp casks.
Well, it's cold chill filtered as opposed to
I don't know. I'm one of those people. I'm legitimately a great consumer for certain companies because I'm a habitual person. meaning I like the same things over and over. I'm not really.
It's the golfer in you.
Yeah,
baseball
I don't really like to try a lot of new things. When I find something I like, you know, I want that. Like when I want a cheeseburger, I want to go here. When I want a scotch, I want to drink this. When I want a beer, I want to drink this. And then if it's not available, I just don't do it. So like I've done a lot of Highland stuff. I really like trying scotches. I've been at a lot of scotch tastings. But I am the worst person to talk to about craft beer because I hate them all. I've tried a few. Like I'm not a craft beer guy. Everyone's like, "Oh, craft beer is so awesome," but the funny thing is, it doesn't taste like Guinness. So like, I don't really love beer. Apparently, I don't really love beer. I like Guinness. I love it. I think it's delicious.
You're not a beer drinker. You're a Guinness drinker.
I'm a Guinness drinker. And I'll drink other beers occasionally. I actually had a great beer from a bar, a small brewery down here called The Tank. They have a bar. I think it's called the Freedom Tower or the something like that. It's like what Sam Adams used to be before it got skunky. And the Boston Lager used to be one of my favorite beers until I feel like every bottle tastes like you're licking the top of a bottle cap. But it's a good amber. I used to like ambers, but for me, I don't drink a lot. But when I do, I want to drink things I like. And I don't drink it to get drunk. So let's have one here. But you know, Guinness has 4.2% alcohol, and it's low in calories, and it's delicious on the tongue.
So speaking of go-tos, go-to things, and keeping things consistent on a consistent basis, that's kind of been the theme of this discussion. Just kind of migrate into what you guys also have planned for this year. And before we do, just basically just still smoking the cigar. The complexity of this is just fantastic. That really strong spice is kind of melded a little bit. It's still there, obviously, but oh man, I'm really enjoying this Vitola. I love the blend always, obviously, but oh god, this is good.
Thank you. I'm really excited about that because I do respect what you've done, and you obviously put that in the top 10 or top 20. I don't remember how many you gave it.
Top 10. It was number 6.
Number 6, so it's got some room for improvement. But the Epicure's done well for us. So what we've got else coming out this year, we came out with a Limitada PB5 in 2015 based off of a really cool wrapper, which was an Engañoso base, which is an Esteli shade grown.
So this is the 4th PB5, right?
So PB5 was the original Limitada release that we did in 2015. And then in 16, we added an IPCPR release, which was, sold at the trade show. And, thankfully, we've had a lot of success based off of obviously, different ratings and, the sales numbers alone will tell you it's been a successful cigar for us. But so what we decided to do last year, because the success of the PB5 the first year, we really liked that tobacco. So what Nestor had done for us, so the original Engañoso was in 15, probably a 8 or 9 year old wrapper. And then when Jeff really started using it and really loved that wrapper. And so I want to say 14 was when he started blending that cigar. So in 14, Nestor grew us more. So we were able to get another Polone of it, which is 3,000 pounds or so, which has been, so now the tobacco is the same strain. It's the same everything other than the age. So we were able to add a few more because we were originally limited to 50,000 cigars because that's all that there was. But now with another 3,000 pounds of wrapper, and don't make me do the math because I don't have any idea what that is.
I don't want to do the math either, so you're okay.
I don't have any idea exactly what that is off the top of my head for wrapper in this cigar. But we were able to launch the Limitada series, and we added basically a quarterly release. So at the trade show, we released the IPCPR, Q4 released the PB5, which has been a staple for us. And then in Q1, which is coming out here by the end of the month, is the Limitada
Red Line.
Limitada Red Line, which is a beautiful shape. It's a great cigar. It's a 6x50 Toro semi-box press, based off the same thing as the PB5. Jeff reworked a little bit, for the shape. Obviously, it's 4 ring gauges smaller, but wanted to make it, fantastic. And that'll be coming out by the end of the month. and that'll be our Q1 release. 6x54 semi-box press, and excited about that because basically, we give it a cool name, but realistically, we want just to continually have, another 1,000 boxes of that Engañoso wrapper that is so flavorful. And thankfully, we're the ones that get to use it. So Nestor did us a big favor there by growing us a little bit more. So that wrapper is 5 years old on the new stuff. So it's the same blends, obviously blended to size, but it's going to be very well. My first impression of the final product when I was down in the factory a few weeks ago, as well as Jeff. The red line's absolutely fantastic. A little bit smaller ring gauge than we've had before. Going to give us a lot more of that flavor from that wrapper that is absolutely phenomenal. And then in our Q2 release, we're going to have the Gunner, which here's an empty box because I was only able to get a box made. The cigars are still there, aging. They weren't worth taking out yet. They were made last fall, and they need a little more time.
Did Mark do the box designs too? I know he does a lot of the design.
He does all. He's done every design.
Oh man, that's
Mark's
pull that Gunner back up again. I wish, for those of you guys who are listening, it's a really fantastic design, and it's got the crosshairs right in the middle of it, in the back of shadowing. So the Limitada Gunner. Oh man, that's a really great look. So so we'll talk about we'll go back to the red line for a second. Since we're talking about the Gunner, Casey. So you guys are the Gunner is an homage in your respect to the armed forces of this great country. So kind of tell us a little bit of the backstory there.
Well, it's not much of a backstory, to be honest with you, other than the fact is we do 100% respect our armed forces. Jeff, myself, our entire team. I mean, we wouldn't be here today without our armed forces. And I've got some of my best friends in the world are military. I am not, but my grandparents were. My grandfathers were both military. And, it came to Jeff's attention that we hadn't really done a lot to support the military outside of Cigars for Warriors, but really build it into our brand. And somebody said, "Hey, when are you going to come out with a cigar for us?" And it was one of his longtime customers at his shop in Minneapolis, and he happens to be a sniper. So it came with with Limitada. We were looking for names, and we're saying, "Hey, Limitada is one of our best cigars." And we're going to come out with it. We'll make a complete line on it, and we'll just do it. It's a Corona Gorda, and the reason why we put it on the Corona Gorda is because it's about the right size to hold while shooting a gun, and it's a lot easier to do. And he laughed, and so the Limitada Gunner is a Corona Gorda, 5 3/8 by 46. Also put a little semi-box press on that one as well. And then the red line, which here's the cover of the box again. Mm-hmm. The red line, for us, basically, we're all in. Red line has a couple different things. It's the end of the road, red line, as well as that, when you red line a vehicle, you're basically pedal to the metal. And for us, we're coming up on 5 years. And for us, I moved across the country. Jeff went all in. Jeff spent years or, months and months traveling to Central America over years, away from his family. But we're all in on this thing. And for us as a family, as partners, as well as everybody a part of the team, with Mark's great designs. Red line for us was for us, it's always been like, let's do this. And we never put one foot in. It was always, we're all in. I moved across the country 5 years ago just for this company, relocated myself. Jeff obviously spent a ton of time and a ton of money and a ton of effort away from his family. But we're all in. So red line is based kind of on our one of our mottos is we've just been all into this. This is for us. This is what we want to do. And so we added that to the Toro side. So pretty excited about those two. Unfortunately, we only made 1,000 boxes of each of those. So there's kind of limited. But thankfully, now we have 4,000 cigars every year with the Engañoso wrapper. So there's a positive and negative to that. But the Gunner will be out in the Q2. And then, hopefully when we get back to the trade show this year, we'll be releasing, the next 4 Limitadas.
And a Gunner is actually a nickname for, has been using a nickname as in the past for people in the armed forces that are a crack shot. So, so the sniper, the kind of the sniper theme and everything's kind of.
Yeah, and that's where it came from.
Really, really beautiful designs, fantastic projects.
Very simplistic, but very elegant. Really a fan of a lot of things Mark does. I don't give him enough credit. I know I talk about him behind his back a lot, but I love that guy to death. And the fact is, he's done some really good things for us. And then, of course, JP's made the cigars, and the fact is, with his blending skills, and one of these days I'm going to come up with a skill to add to the team, and maybe they'll talk to me about it.
So as you mentioned, you moved cross country 5 years ago for this company exclusively, and you've been suffering ever since, especially with that image of you just a few moments ago sitting oceanside with a Guinness and having your evening cigar and watching the sunset. I'm sure it's just been awful for you.
When you have to uproot your life and start over,
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, the weather is beautiful, the scenery is beautiful, the beach is beautiful. But life is good a lot of places. And for me, Miami still isn't home. I live here for 5 years, but my home is still Minneapolis and Las Vegas. That's where I built my life. But the fact is, my life is Crux Cigars, as well as, sharing this adventure with my family. And it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it, and going all in for it was, I don't know if I've told this story publicly, but Jeff and I had talked about Crux, or a cigar company, years ago when I was working for him, and at his retail shop in the late 2000s. And I ended up leaving working at a shop because I didn't want to live in Minnesota anymore. But we'd always talked about doing a manufacturing company because with the passion that we've had for tobacco, and the taxes in Minnesota weren't going to allow us to open up a bunch of new shops. But I was running a golf store or a golf company in Las Vegas for 4.5 years. And I actually got fired because we were too successful. But I was about to take a job in New Jersey with an old teammate of mine from minor league ball. And I called Jeff just to get some impressions of what he thought about a contract that I had emailed him, looking for some business advice from my cousin. And I wanted to have him look it over. And he goes, "Hey, I like it. Everything's good. You maybe make this adjustment, X, Y, Z, doesn't matter." But he goes, "Before you look at this job, I think I'm ready to do this Crux thing." And I was like, "Wait, you're ready?" Because for me, it was obviously learning business, and him was getting cigars and timing. And so that was 2013. And he had been doing his due diligence, just like I was learning business. And I had let's just call it a really good offer to go be a, part owner of a baseball training facility that has been a passion in my family's life. My dad's been a college baseball coach for 40 years. He's one of the top 25 winningest coaches in all college history, or active college history. And so baseball has been a part of my passion. And it took me less than 2 seconds to say, "I'm in." And we didn't even know the details, because the ability to work with Jeff, family business, cigars, I turned down a really good offer of a lot of money, but I'd have had to live in New Jersey. So the difference for that was probably the easiest Heisman on that I've ever done. But so then basically rerouting to South Florida within the next few months was a benefit for all of us, because I had the freedom to do that, and that allowed us to get everything set up and then start distributing nationwide.
It was a question I was actually going to ask you the last time I had you on the show, because I was looking at your dad's numbers, and you just popped it in my head, but triggered that memory again, and I wondered how high he was, because I was like, he's got to be up there in terms of winning his coaches, because of the length of his career and how successful he's been.
He's in the top 25 active winningest coaches. The only kind of drawback to his total wins is he's a Division III baseball coach. So they only get to play 40 games a year. Division I gets to play 60, 65. So I don't know the exact number, but when you're playing obviously a third more of a schedule, you can create more wins. But let's just look at, for the fact is, my dad's been a baseball coach, as a head baseball coach, for, don't quote me, but since 1976, 77. And he's been a head coach ever since. And he's had a lot of success. So baseball's, I was born after that. So I grew up around baseball. I grew up as a ball boy. I grew up as a bat boy. I grew up on the bench. I grew up traveling on a bus. And that what it was. So baseball is a big thing, and he's done very well. He's also the defensive coordinator for the football team, which is a nationally recognized football team. That's, we won a national title when I was there. They got to the semifinals last year, and we were fortunate enough to have John Gallardi, who is the all-time winningest football coach in the history of all football, with 489 wins, which surpasses anybody you can possibly think of on any level. And my dad has been a part of that since 1976. So unofficially, when we did all the math, my dad has more defensive, which they don't keep the stat of defensive coordinator wins, but he is the winningest defensive coordinator in football history.
That's incredible.
Which is cool, but nobody's ever. You can't look that up.
It's cool, but he's also in the top 25 for baseball coaches.
It's not a whole lot of times where you see a college profession where it's multi-sport, and obviously my dad's my best friend in the entire world, and the fact is I have learned anything that's not been cigars probably from him. And it's, baseball is a passion of mine. I've always been a part of it. I miss playing it to these days, but like you get old and you can't hit a curveball anymore. So, basically they tell you to, go pound sand.
So we're gonna close this show out with two ridiculous questions. There was gonna be one ridiculous question you already knew about. This one's kind of catching a little off guard, but I promise it's in the totally in your wheelhouse.
I'm pretty good on my feet. So because we talked about, everything that's been put together to get you to this red line moment. You guys are all in, 5-year anniversary coming up and celebrating 5 years. So, because there's no way to predict the future, this is why it's a ridiculous question. If I'm putting Casey Haugen on the spot, Casey, if you had to choose out of what's existing, because you obviously can't tell me what's going to be released in the future, but of what's existing, including the gunner that's anticipated, I guess it's the furthest out release that you've got on deck, so to speak, including the gunner. What do you think is what will be the most popular cigar in Crux's portfolio of the existing cigars that you guys have on the market today? In year 10, on your 10th anniversary, what will be the most popular cigar? I've got to stick with the Connecticut. I mean, the Connecticut's been a timeless cigar.
Right? I thought it would be an easy answer, yeah.
I really don't think – I want to pull something cooler in for you. PB5's done well for us, but it's limited. Ecuador, the Ecuador Connecticut, the Epicure. I feel like – the Ecuador, the Epicure Toro, the Epicure Robusto, Corona Gore. We can go through the whole line. I think I smoke them all. And I'm usually a smaller ring gauge guy. But I feel like in year 10 – the Epicure will still be strong. And just because the Connecticut's a timeless tobacco.
Yeah. Like I said, I knew it was going to be an easy answer. And I wasn't looking for if you had answered something different, it would have been interesting. But I kind of knew that, kind of pulled the lawyer trick. I pretty much knew the answer before you said it. But it is. And I think what you guys have here is the makings of what will be an all-time classic. And
the beautiful thing about that is it's not overly complex tobacco. And other than the Condega, which we bought a ton of it because that was the focal point of it. It's a filler leaf. So it's not like we need a ton of it,
Right.
We bought a ton and we don't need a ton per cigar. With the Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper we're using, that cigar we're able to make consistently over and over and over and over. And the complexity of the blend is minimal, where there's a little bit of spice, a little bit of creaminess, mild plus the medium bodied.
Quintessential creaminess. Don't forget that.
Correct. Quintessential creaminess. So that tobacco is, I think it's timeless. I think people are going to smoke Connecticut's forever. And I'm happy, having that.
Whether they admit it or not.
Whether they admit it or not, I think it's a great cigar. It's been great for us for the last 2 years, and I don't see it stopping over the next 5.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit about baseball with your dad, and for those people who maybe didn't catch the first interview or haven't heard anything from you in the past, that you played baseball throughout your entire life, up into the professional level and everything.
Until they told me no mas.
Until they told you no more. Gosh, they missed out.
I don't know if they messed up. Like, I was fortunate enough to get to where I got. Like, I wasn't that guy that was lighting up scoreboards or lighting up radar guns, but I was good enough to be a lot of places, and just not a lot of good enough to move on. But baseball has been a big part of my life, and I was fortunate enough to do it. Got me where I am today.
So to that point, there were two very, very historical large signings recently in the Major League Baseball. Bryce Harper signed for 13 years, $330 million with the Philadelphia Phillies, staying in the same division for his entire career. Well, more than likely, if he lives through goes through the end of his contract with the Phillies, that'll be his career. He will be in the NL East, NLE, and National League East. I can speak English. And then Manny Machado signs for 10 years and $300 million, which, as we discussed, is actually a bit more money per year. With the San Diego Padres, while they were discussed, throughout the entire rumor mill process, I think we could both agree they were at least somewhat, if not completely surprising on the Machado side. So my question to you is this, Casey: if you, in the context of their individual skill sets, what they've done in their career so far, the positions that they play or could play, and their contracts, who would Casey Haugen rather be, Bryce Harper or Manny Machado?
Ooh. From a baseball standpoint, who would I rather be, Machado or Harper?
Taking all their talent, their skill set, what they've played, what they can play, what they probably will be playing in the future, because it's more than likely they will not stay at their same positions at the end of these contracts, because they're a decade or longer.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they've accomplished. One's an MVP. One has not won an MVP.
Mm-hmm. One's an outfielder. One's a middle infielder.
One has incredible hair, which you and I don't have.
Do not. The fact is, I like where San Diego is going with their farm system. I think they will be successful again. However, that being said, this year they are 945 to 1 to win a World Series, which is a number that I saw on some website a couple weeks ago. The Phillies, I don't have their exact number, but I'm assuming it's way less than that.
It's less than 945 to 1.
If I had to guess, it's probably 50 to 1. Success obviously is a big part of wanting to play baseball. The rebuilding process. The money's great. They're both obviously 300 plus millionaires. So, I mean, you can just take out that factor. I want to win now. I want to have fun. Winning is fun. San Diego's a beautiful city. Philly fans are behind you. Nobody cares about San Diego baseball. I would rather play in Philly and be rather play in Philly and be part of the Phillies organization. For the fact is, I want to win. I don't know why people go places when they have the choice if they're not going to compete. I know it's cool to build something, but to you, it's always about, success is fun. Baseball is fun when you win. It's a taxing season. He plays the outfield. He did have a down year last year with the bat. I think he was kind of coming over some injuries. I also think he plays the outfield, how hard is the outfield? I love the outfield because I remember when I was a catcher and going to be able to play the outfield today was a day off, felt like, because you had to make 7 plays a day. 3 backups, you caught 2 fly balls, and you maybe picked up a ground ball. And you go hit. You just get to concentrate on hitting. Infielders have a lot more taxing skills. So I think I've talked myself into the answer, as I'd rather be Bryce Harper in Philadelphia, getting paid $330 over 13, because I'm going to get a vacation home in the beach anyways.
I think the interesting thing about that point too is the fact that these two players are incredibly, either have a lack of foresight or have just so much arrogance to think that they are going to have that high level of athleticism for their entirety of their career. Considering Bryce Harper's injuries, injury history, they both chose National League teams. So the DH is not on the table with current rules. The DH is not on the table.
It's not on the table, but the difference is, who do you blame for that? like you're blaming the team that's going to pay you $330 now.
No.
Like that's a Phillies mistake if they're giving him 13 years. I think the mistake is the length of the contract for both.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I believe that Harper hit 268-ish last year.
I don't even know if it was that high. But I mean, it was mid 200s.
But that's.
I gotta look it up now. Keep talking.
That's not a number that's impressive. Obviously, home runs are impressive. RBI.
Not $300 million worth of impression. That's right.
But yeah, like I don't see it on a down year. I know he was an MVP, and I know he's had a success, but he also
played rookie of the year too, and rookie of the year.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal talent. He's going to be a great player. But
249, he batted 249 with 34.
249 with how many?
34 home runs.
What was his OBP?
Let me look that up. He had 169 strikeouts, so he averaged.
That's what I'm saying. He struck out a lot. He swung for the fence a lot. I probably would have hit more home runs too if I had swung out of my ass. But
his OBP was 393. His OPS was 889.
Oh, 393.
Yeah, 393. Which was above his career average. His career average is 388, right. So it was above his career average.
So he's still getting on base, which is good. He strikes out a lot. But the difference is he does play outfield. I feel like you're taking some of these teams. I mean, you talk about the Machado contract. I mean, quote me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that's about 33% of their payroll for next year.
That's what we said. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about a third of their payroll next year, like for a middle infielder. One middle infielder. For a team that's 945-1. Like, I get it. You're signing him, obviously not for next year. You're signing him for the next few years. And middle infield is important, and he's a guy that could definitely be a difference maker. But you need about 5 more. You need about 5 more difference makers. And in the game of baseball, like, you only get 4 or 5 at-bats a day. You can only pitch every 4 or 5 days. So the difference is you're really not that important as an individual. So until you put a team around you, like the Phillies have a chance to win in the near future, the statistics are telling us the Padres are not going to win anytime soon.
Right, exactly. But as we've seen with the Houston Astros, that's actually a pretty good formula to lead.
But how long did that take them? 5 years?
Yeah, it did. Took them a while.
Yeah, so I'm not
three seasons of 100+ losses.
Yeah, so you look at that, and everyone says it's really cool. Name the Houston Astros that were part of year 1 of 100 losses, year 2 of 100. Name
JD Martinez, who's on the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, they're on different. A lot of those guys are on different teams, but it's cool to be a part of those losses. For who? Nobody. Nobody wants to build it, because the fact is, it's all about being successful now. And if you have the ability and the contract power, all that thing, to put yourself in a position to sign with a powerful team, because you're going to get signed by, we'll just use the New York Yankees because they've won the most World Series ever. We're going to use that recommendation because my dad's a big Yankees fan. If the Yankees want to sign you for $300 million, you're going to sign with the Yankees for $300 million because they're a powerhouse. You want to win. Being successful is a lot more fun than losing 100 games a year. So we've come to the conclusion for a second time. I would rather be Harper in Philly than Machado in San Diego.
So the reason I've been chuckling this whole time, and there was a secondary reason. Obviously, you're a baseball guy, and so I wanted to ask this question just kind of for fun. But so the reason I said before we started this interview that I thought was really funny about this, and I want to strongly preface. Excuse me. I want to strongly preface this because I know you're not fond of the guy Bryce Harper. I know you're not a fan of him personally. But I've always thought you looked like him.
Really? Well, yes. I mean, the fact is, we're going to look here, and that's going to really, we're both white people, I guess. So, we all look the same. That's what I've learned here.
I even said it the first time I met you, I was like, he looks like Bryce Harper.
Yeah, living in South Florida, all the white people look the same according to So that's fair. I'm not the overly most attractive guy in the world. I'll take his hair. And that doesn't bother me one bit. I don't think he's an ugly looking dude. But no, Harper's he's got growing up to do still. He's I think he's gonna. I hope he's gonna turn a page moving up to Philly. I want players that are great players to be good people as well. And I think he's got a long way to grow up. So I'm excited for him for that reason. I'm still gonna hate the Phillies. Doesn't matter who's on the team. I'm still gonna hate the Phillies. But so I hope they lose 100 games. Basically based off of all the teams I don't want to win, I hope they all lose 100 games. Which would be your Red Sox, which would be your Houston, which would be pretty much anybody but the Twins, which are going to maybe lose 100 games this year, actually.
We got Marwin Gonzalez, though. Good for you guys.
Yeah,
we got stud, man.
We got that.
Stud.
We got that going on. And the only other guy I want to be successful, I have now retired. So, Chipper Jones, who was one of my longtime idols, as well as my most recent retiree 2 years ago, who was a one-time All-Star Nick Swisher. I wanted him to be successful everywhere he went, so I cheered for those teams. But other than that, I'm a Twins fan, and I was fortunate enough to be at the '91 World Series, sitting in the left field bleachers, games 1, 2, and 7, with my father. So I did get to win a World Series, two of them in my lifetime, one being present. It's just tough to watch the Twins these days. But hopefully we turn it around. I hope everybody else loses.
Sounds good enough. Well, that'll wrap up our 68th take. Casey, I want to thank you again, man. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming back for a second time and gracing us with your presence. It was fantastic to have you and talk with you a little bit more about Crux's past, present, and future. Great, beautiful, and bright it all is for sure. So definitely appreciate you stopping by tonight again. And I know it's late on the East Coast. We did lose an hour of sleep last night, so especially big thanks to you. Bryce Harper may have an MVP, but I'm giving you the MVP tonight. So
I appreciate that. And yeah, I got an early flight in the morning. I am heading out to Houston in the morning. I'll be in Houston for a couple events. In Webster, I'll be at the Smoke Ring on Tuesday night and the Craft on Wednesday night. And then I'm heading over to San Antonio for a little event at Club Hubner on Thursday. And then we're doing a coffee and cigars Saturday morning at the VSO store. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Crux Cigars. And I appreciate you having me, Bear. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this. Look forward to speaking to you again, and go Crux yourself.
Fantastic. For everyone out there, we really appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, Breaker, everywhere else. Unsubscribe, but don't forget to resubscribe again, because that's actually a positive thing. Leave a review. And as always, if you're listening to us, we are exclusively brought to, the audio is exclusively brought to you by Cornelius and Anthony Cigars. For everyone else tonight, for Casey Haugen of Crux Cigars, I'm Bear Duplessis. See you next time.